Hi, author Abby Tyler here. I am up to chapter 6 on Runaway Cove. If you found this video randomly, head to my channel and find the Runaway Cove playlist. You can start back at chapter 1. I will be reading this entire book on YouTube, although if you get in a hurry, it is also available on all the retailers in ebook format. Let's get to it. Chapter 6, Runaway Cove. We're back with Zeke. Zeke nursed his hangover with the rest of his crew the next morning. For their last night in Runaway Cove, they had closed down the bar. Jared kept buying shots. They'd laughed a lot. He vaguely remembered Regina making a move. Hopefully he turned her down easy. It was all a little fuzzy. Franklin groaned from his bed on the other side of the room. That wasn't even good tequila. I hear you. They heard a thump in the next room. Franklin banged on the wall. Not again, you rabbits! Jared and his girlfriend had been at it half the night. They were all staying at a bed and breakfast at the far end of Main Street. All the shops and restaurants in Runaway Cove lined the picturesque avenue that ended in a walking path to the actual cove. Their group had hiked to it yesterday, before the show and the coffee shop. Right. The coffee shop. He wanted more strudel, and Cricket would be starting her first day. Zeke peered at his phone. Almost 10. She'd have worked 4 hours already. They had to check out at noon, and then their convoy of cars would drive the hour and a half to Boston. He had to act now. When he made it downstairs, showered and eager, most of the women were seated at the long table downstairs, spreading jam on toast and crumpets. Regina was with them, but she didn't look at him. Come eat, his co-worker Hanna said. She'd covered her hair with a ball cap. All of them looked about as rough as he felt. I'm taking a walk to clear my head, he said. Hanna scraped butter across her toast. Good for you. I barely rolled out of bed. Zeke didn't want to get pulled into a conversation. The need to get to Cricket was urgent, a pounding in his chest. He headed for the door. The morning was cool, the sea air laced with salt. He strode in long, even steps along the sidewalk. Very few shops were open on Sunday. The upscale clothing boutiques were dark and empty, as well as the jeweler and the antique dealer. But the bakery had its doors thrown open wide, as did the touristy store filled with Runaway Cove souvenirs. And 2 storefronts later, Runaway Perk had its folding chalkboard out on the walk. Cherry strudel until it's gone, it proclaimed. It was his lucky day indeed. Cherry was his favorite. He paused outside the window, gearing himself up. He would talk to her, introduce himself, make a good impression. He had no idea if he could get her number or form any connection beyond a hello. He'd have to wing it. The door jingled as he entered, and right away she looked over at him. She wore the same outfit as yesterday, the yellow shirt and pink shorts, now covered in a green apron. This surprised him so thoroughly that he halted halfway to the counter. What was happening here? A young woman in need of a job, wearing the same clothes every day? The gray-haired lady stood at the end of the counter, arms crossed over her chest. Cricket glanced her way, then straightened. May I help you? Zeke shook himself free of his confusion and finished his journey to the counter. I'd like a cherry strudel, 1 for now and 1 to go if I could. As soon as he said it, he regretted his choice. He could have had a second chance to talk to her. Actually, just the 1 for now. I'll get the other when I leave. Cricket nodded, pulling a plate for the pastry. Anything to drink? A latte. Yours was perfect last night. Her gaze darted to her boss again, and he wondered if he should abandon all hope of talking to her. It was her first day, and she was obviously in some sort of jam. He couldn't jeopardize her situation. She rang up the sale and took his card. When she slid the warmed strudel across the counter, she said, I'll bring you your latte. Had she been doing that before, or was this special? "Thanks," he said, and stepped away. A good number of the tables were filled this morning, and he had to take one quite a ways from the counter. He could only watch Cricket if he leaned to the left. This was no good at all. He sighed and picked up his fork. At least he'd gotten his strudel, and she would come near him in a moment. Would she make another heart on the latte? Did that mean anything, or was that her signature design? He tapped his foot anxiously, barely tasting the strudel he'd come for. Finally, a green apron appeared by his table. But it was the older woman, Vicky. "Here you go," she said. "Thanks." He barely concealed his disappointment. But Vicky didn't move away. "Are you in Runaway Cove for long?" Interesting that she was initiating a conversation. "No, my friends and I are checking out at noon." He might have imagined it, but she seemed to let out a sigh of relief. "I hope you have a pleasant stay." This time she moved on. This whole situation was curious. Now he wanted to observe the normal routine of the shop to see if they'd varied anything for him. But no, Cricket's welcome sounded the same. She also offered to bring the next couple's complex coffee order to their table. But she wasn't the one who delivered it. Her boss did. He was nothing special. Even his latte design today was the common leaf seen in photos anywhere. Still, he considered ways he could talk to her. There was always the phone number on the receipt ploy. That would put the ball in her court. Would she even have a phone? The clothing issue plagued him. What was her story? He couldn't ask. A half-hour ticked by. Customers came and went. He couldn't nurse his cold latte any longer. Time to throw in the towel. But then his luck turned. Cricket took off her apron, folded it, and tucked it under the counter. Vicky pulled the tips out of the jar and exchanged the smaller bills in the register. 30 minutes for lunch. Tell Amelia I sent you. Cricket was on break. Zeke wasted no time dumping his mug and plate into the dish bin and rushing outside. Cricket passed the closed-up hat shop and turned into the touristy one. He took his time, examining gift items in the window before following her into the store. She spoke to a petite woman in a pink Runaway Cove t-shirt and flowered cropped pants. The two of them moved to the back of the store. Zeke busied himself examining shot glasses and souvenir spoons, all the while keeping half an eye on the women. A family with small children entered, and the shopkeeper peeled away from Cricket to greet them. This was it. He moved swiftly to the back of the store. "Hey." She turned to him, and he felt knocked backward by everything about her. She was even more beautiful up close, her hair shining gold, her eyes a sparkling brown-green. "You didn't get your second strudel," she said, glancing at his empty hands. "I forgot. I'll have to go back." She nodded and focused on a shelf of t-shirts marked down 50%. She held up a blue one with Runaway Cove written in a curly script. "Is it me?" she asked. They were talking. "I like it," he said. "I suppose it depends on what you prefer. Is blue your color?" She draped the shirt over her arm. "I'm not particular, unless it's orange. I'm not a fan of orange." "But your shorts." He stopped himself too late. She looked down. "Oh, right. They are borrowed." He couldn't keep from asking what he was desperate to know. "Are you all right? You wore this outfit yesterday." She stepped out of the pink flip-flops and shoved a delicate foot with a perfect French pedicure into a pair of flowered canvas shoes. "I'm fine. I'm always fine." Now that he was looking, he realized her nails were also perfect, long, manicured, and tipped with an intricate white design. None of this made sense. Her hair either. It was glorious, well cut, and the color alone would cost more than she made in a week. She had a story. "I guess these work," she said, twisting her feet to admire the shoes. "But I need shorts, too." I can help you look. No orange. She smiled at him, and he felt knocked backward. He didn't care where she'd been or what brought her here with this incongruous situation. He wanted to know where she was headed and how he could come along for the ride. I'm Zeke, he said, lifting a stack of sweatpants that were way too warm for the season to find a pair of blue shorts buried below. Are these your size? She held them up. They have a drawstring. I'll make them work. Thanks for digging. Only when the shorts were on her arm did she say, I'm Cricket. Nice to meet you, Cricket. What was safe to ask? He didn't want to bring up her new job or even ask if she was from Runaway Cove. He already suspected she wasn't. Then he had it. Where did you learn your latte designs? She sorted through another stack of t-shirts. I worked at a coffee shop in Notre Dame for a couple of years. Did you go there? To the university? She didn't answer right away, tugging a pale yellow shirt from the stack. I'll probably get coffee stains on this one. She set it back down. I live in Boston, he said, figuring the college might be a sore spot. My dad lived here in Runaway Cove for about a year. I've always wanted to visit it based on his stories. Good stories? Maybe a little wild. She nodded, locating a dark blue shirt. This is better, don't you think? She held it up. It had flowers across the front. I like it. She flipped through the tags, then kicked the shoes off to add to the pile. I think this is it for now. She turned to the counter. So, did you follow me here, or was it a coincidence that I've seen you 3 times in 2 days? Busted. What could he say? I guess I got starstruck when I saw you. I apologize. I would never want to make you uncomfortable. She held his gaze a moment, as if assessing the likelihood of him becoming a stalker. You're barking up the wrong tree, that's for sure, but I'm not uncomfortable. He wondered what she meant by barking up the wrong tree. Did she have a boyfriend then? Or something else? Did he dare ask? No, he'd already gone too far. They made it to the counter. He wanted to do something for her. He couldn't let her go. The shopkeeper looked between them as she refolded the clothes and nipped the tags. Glad you found some things. Vicky said you were doing a good job at her shop. She raised an eyebrow at Zeke. And I see you've got an admirer already. Cricket's hand stilled as she shuffled dollar bills. No, he was at the coffee shop, that's all. Her tone had a shake to it. She didn't like being called out. This wasn't good. He was making things worse for her. Time to extract himself. I'm so sorry. I thought we'd met before. He nodded at the other woman. Have a good day. He hurried out the door. The sky already seemed a little less blue now that he'd botched their first real conversation. He strode down Main Street back to the bed and breakfast, cursing his luck. But that had been a total bust. He might have to forget about her, if that was even possible. So that's the end of chapter 6. Cricket and Zeke do have the primary relationship in this story, although it is a story of several women in the town. So don't worry, they will see each other again. I hope you stick by and find chapter 7. And the book is available if you're in a hurry to get it all down and read the whole story. Thank you for being here.